Welcome to the new and improved ISL podcast preview, where we take a deep dive into the numbers for the ISL. Content warning. This is for diehards. This is going to be as nerdy as it is fun. So get out your protractors and let's get into the ISL. Of course, as soon as you finish listening and getting all the free advice you can handle here, make sure you head over to isl.bet to lock in those picks and fantasy squads every week before Systems goes live on Wednesdays on Kick. The games are free to enter, no affiliate code needed, and there's over $40,000 in season one cash prizes up for grabs, including both season-long and weekly rewards. So even if you haven't gotten in on the fun yet, it's not too late. And of course, it's really good practice for season two, which is going to be here before we know it, and bigger and better if you can imagine. Finally, I hate to tease everyone with a prize that I have locked up for myself, but I have to remind you that there is a $1,900 bounty for the first pick'em week that grows each and every week when it's not hit. Last week, we had two 15-0s alive in the final matchup, but Gates of Olympus dashed their hopes and kept the prize alive for the rest. So make sure you lock those picks in and Tuesday. Make sure you lock those picks in and tune in Wednesday to watch me win. If you like this or any content from this page, make sure you like the video and subscribe to be sure you are alerted anytime a new video drops. Joining me this week and moving forward is none other than Systems himself. This weekend, he's dropping the green flag for the F1 race in Mexico City, so the connection's a little scuffed, but the content will be good as always. Welcome, Systems. How you doing on that Concorde jet headed back?
Yeah.
Right?
Mexico, Dubai, Europe, been everywhere the last month. Sorry. So, a little bit scuffed here from a hotel room yet again, but we'll get through it. And very excited to do this actually. Again, like you said at the start, diehards only, but numbers, stats, all that sort of stuff's made the ISL pretty fun for the people that get right into it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity. I know the numbers and stats are something that I dug into right away, and the reason, as we've been kind of digging in, has been to try to predict a little better and try to find better ways to know how we're going to win that $5,000 prize. And one of the things we've kind of settled on is median X. It's been the centerpiece of what we've been focusing. Why are we focusing on the median X so much, you ask? Well, simply put, it's the most mathematical way we've found to know how a slot's going to do from week to week. The median, as you might know, is different from an average, where it basically, if you had numbers 1 through 100, the median is going to be 50, right? But if you had every other number between 1 and 100, the median would still be that same 50. It's because it's going to take the outliers out. And the problem was we were looking at things like average early in the season, and slots like Choco Reels that had major blowups were leading the league in average and just weren't performing well on a week-to-week basis. And so we tinkered and found a more accurate prediction of what a slot's going to do from buy to buy. And that's kind of panned out across the entire ISL season. The slot with the higher median coming into a matchup wins 73.4% of the time. That sounds a little lukewarm until you break it down further, Systems. If you had picked based only on the median X, you would have 116 overall points in Pick'em right now. That's good enough for first place in the points race by a whopping 6 points. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
Yeah. And of course, the size of the margin in median also makes a difference in how likely a slot is to win. For example, slots that barely have a margin, so 0.01 to 0.09 edge, they win 66% of the time, 2 out of every 3. The 0.1 to 0.19 edge is what I call the upset zone, as only slots win 63.3% of the time in this range. And that's what we call favorites. And that's how we determine that on the score sheet when Systems is reading the tail of the tape, is which slot has a better median. That slot's going to be the favorite. And the edge is what the difference is between that slot's median and the slot that has a lower median. And we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get into the individual matchups. But if a slot has a 0.2 to 0.29 edge, your chances of winning jump to 75%. A 0.3 to 0.39 edge jumps to 78.3%. And this is an incredible stat. When a slot has a more than 0.4 median advantage, it is 19-0 this ISL season. So completely undefeated. When you talk talk about upsets, and huge upsets, that's the sort of thing that we're talking about. Is can a slot that has been performing so consistently poorly beat one that has been performing so consistently well? We haven't seen it yet. Do you think the median is going to continue to be the holy grail of the ISL? Do you think there's going to be some other stats or things we find moving forward that we can dig into?
The median, sorry, a bit of a croaky voice, having just got up a little bit earlier, but the median number, it is the top number. I think someone came to me recently with another variable stat. I'll have to look at that a little bit later. Very similar to median. I actually think it's going to be more successful, but I'll have a look at that later. But yeah, median's going to be huge moving forward. The challenge I think people are going to find is that when do you actually decide to sort of, if you are going to record those stats, we make them available for season 2, where are you going to start trusting the median? Because you need some data behind you. And we're in week, 10 or 11 now, and we're getting towards the end of the season already. And each individual season is being planned to have different slot providers. So the stats are going to reset effectively for next season. Now, there might be some carryover slots. So if there are carryover slots, you'll have a little bit of a small edge if you've sorry about that, if you've kept the data over season 1. But it'll be interesting to see whether people sort of try and utilize that or start really just running numbers only, as opposed to just sort of guessing or doing gut feeling. But yeah, that would be interesting forward. But that's the stat. If you are a stats person, you want to be following that, because that's the best guide, at least what we have now, as to the consistency or the mathematical chances of pulling off 3 games out of 5.
Right. And the median curve, one of the cool things about this, and we'll talk about right now, get into the game with the number 1 median, Hoarders. It has a 0.93 median. That's a massive 0.11 ahead of Grand Heist, which is in second. And so the crazy thing about Hoarders, they got swept the first 2 weeks, 0-3. If you take those 2 games out of the equation, their median jumps to a staggering 1.04x. They've gone 17 times over 1x, and they've only gone 7 times under a 0.4x, which is kind of where a lot of other slots lie for their median. The thing is, and now this is kind of what you get with volatility, they've still never blown up. Their high is a 2.54x. That's the 3rd worst high score in the league. So my question, my kind of thought is, and specifically with Hoarders and maybe in general, is once we get into the playoffs, are maybe some of these slots that have the higher end abilities and kind of middling medians going to be able to take down a game like Hoarders that's just so consistently averaging almost over 1x every time coming week in and week out? What do you think about that kind of the volatility curve?
Well, Hoarders, you understand the super on Hoarders is normally an okay setup that sort of guarantees some hits, but very surprising to see it nearly effectively averaging money back every bonus, which is why it's been on an absolute heater since the start of the year when it started off really off slowly. I don't think it can keep it up over the next 5 weeks. I would expect a downturn for Hoarders, just purely, not an insane downturn, but I don't think it's going to, if we're at 0.93 median here, I suggest by the end of the season it'll be somewhere down near the 0.75. That would be my guess anyway. But yeah, the stat line is it's crazy. But if you look at the 3rd highest or 4th highest, Crystal Digger, who's been pretty much just destroying everyone, they got the biggest net rating by a mile in the ISL, and their highest win I think is 2x or 2.3x or something. These slots are just in these best of 5 series. You just need slots which aren't going to go up, down, up, down, up, down. You just want them to chug out money backs. If you're averaging nearly money back, you are not going to lose many best of 5s, because you're going to need at least a slot you're playing against to score more than 1x at least 3 times out of 5. And sometimes even more than that if you have a big number. So, yeah, I think Hoarders is going to have a really good season overall now. They've put themselves in that position, but I think they'll come back a bit over the next 5 or 6 weeks before the playoffs.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And you spoke a little bit about slots like, Grand Heist, for example, is the next best on median. They have a 0.82. Sweet Bonanza has a 0.75. Crystal's Digger, 0.73. Hammer of Vulcan, 0.72. Hip Hop Hop, 0.7. Super Mega Monsters, 0.69. LOL. Those are quite a different group of slots. I think the one that really stands out, Crystal's Digger obviously has that huge net rating. But to me, something that's interesting is Hip Hop Hop has the 3rd highest single X and also the 6th highest median. And so it really gives you the ability to beat anyone in the league on any given week in terms of blowing up, but also consistently showing week in and week out. Whereas a lot of the slots, the rest of them, the Crystal's Digger, the Super Mega Monsters, they're going to have really low, highest single. So that's something that sort of, I think we're going to get a couple slots out of that group that are between 0.7 and 0.8 that end up at the top. They're kind of performing pretty well. Crystal's Digger has a really tough schedule the rest of the way. So I think that kind of speaks to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, they've had a pretty good run overall in terms of opponents. When you're playing these poor opponents, some people pick up every week. You see the comments in the chat. They're like, "Wait a minute, did Crystal Digger just get $500 for the scatter?" Which is, I believe, it's 40. It's around 40% of the bonus buy instantly every buy. And well, the answer is yes, they do, and that's where the minor edge comes in. At least the new people entering, understanding that. Well, the very worst Crystal Digger can do, the very worst is 0.43, 0.44. So straight away, any matchup against Crystal Digger, if you don't get to 0.4, that's a free win for Crystal Digger. So that's where they have a massive edge this season. Super Mega Monsters in the top, I think I spoke about this last stream, in the top 6 or 7 median X, they've just been unlucky. They've just been straight up unlucky. They've lost, I think, 3 or 4 best of 5s in 5 games. You would expect a slot like that. They're in a hard, I believe they're in a hard division. You got a slot like that. And I would expect them to improve a lot over the back end. Whether they can make the playoffs, I don't know. But yeah, you look at all those names. Grand High, Sweet Bonanza has been really good. Crystal Digger, Hip Hop Pop. Hammer of Vulcan's up there, which is really surprising. I don't think they make the playoffs, though, Hammer of Vulcan. I'll have to check the leaderboard later. But yeah, most of those names are going to be contenders when it comes to playoffs.
Well, the thing about Hammer of Vulcan is they're in a pretty weak division. They're tied for first right now with Sweet Rush.
Oh, are they? Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, they're in the Razor Returns and Retro Tapes division. So they've got a chance.
Okay, so yeah, they got the soft one.
Yep. Whereas Hip Hop Pop, Sheep Gone Wild, and Crystal's Digger are all in the same division. So that's a really tough. But Crystal still has
who's tied with Hammer of Vulcan? I haven't checked.
Sweet Rush Megaways.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's absolutely a winnable. That is a winnable division now.
Yep.
So yeah, you can probably get in the playoffs there with 9 and 7 or something like that on the season. Maybe even 8 and 8, depending on how it shakes out, because you're not worried about Razor Returns or Retro Tape string together wins. That is a 2-dog race, so to speak. In that.
Yeah, no, it should be. And Crystal's Digger has Hip Hop Pop this week. This week is the last division week, by the way. They'll have the divisions will be wrapped up. So they still have Hip Hop Pop, Boom Boom Gold, Hammer of Vulcan, and Silverback, along with a couple fillers there. So 4 tough matchups. We'll see how that goes.
Beautiful.
All right, well, let's get into it then. Let's take a look at the actual matchup previews themselves. Like I said, it's the last division week. So first up on the list, we had Choco Reels versus Boom Boom Gold. This is a good matchup that has 2 slots that are pretty tough. Choco Reels has given us the biggest win in the ISL. Boom Boom Gold has been consistent as of late, but they've had that 2-game losing streak. There's a pretty significant median X difference, 0.55 to 0.24. That's going to put Boom Boom Gold in a pretty heavy favorite position. They're in that 1 game ahead of Big Bamboo in the ASC West. I expect Boom Boom Gold to win this pretty handily. Choco Reels, again, can give you that 1 or 2 blow-ups, but their 1-9 record speaks to the fact that they're not going to do it 3 times out of 5.
Yeah, it's there's not a lot to talk about with Chubb. Boom Boom Gold has got a +8 net rating. Choco Reels -14. Even if you take the net rating, the median X out of it, I think they're in the second highest bracket, 0.31 differential. It's a net 22 rating. Yeah, everyone who watches Choco Reels knows that it just has so many tiny wins. The only win again for Choco Reels this week was in the worst slot going, which is Cabin Crashers, which it won 3-1, or else it hasn't really been competitive. Funny enough, the most competitive matchup it did was in week 1 when it went to 5 games against Boom Boom Gold. Only other times it's gone to 5 games against slots like King Kobe, Penny Pelican, etc. So yeah, I'd expect Boom Boom Gold to be one of the locks of the week, and quite an easy one.
Absolutely. Next up is Hammer of Vulcan and Razor Returns. Now, this has our biggest median difference of the week, 0.44x. So history would tell us this one is an absolute lock. There's only a 2 difference in net rating, though. And I'm going to give away one of my secrets here. One of the things I like to look at when making my picks is where the median difference is significantly different than what the net rating would portray, because then the public public, I think will be quite a bit on raise the returns in this game. Just looking at the stats on face. And I think Hammer of Vulcan is a very significant, like I said, based on the stats, they are 100% locked to win it. So that's just kind of my take on it. What are your thoughts? This is a pretty big matchup. 5-5
Yeah,
and 4-6.
gut says it's actually pretty even. People like to go towards raise returns because the game quality is obviously more enjoyable to watch than Hammer of Vulcan. And yeah, like you said, net rating basically the same. One's 4-6, one's 5-5. But that is a massive median X. Was at 0.44, which you said 19-0 this season. So on a stats basis, it would have Hammer of Vulcan an absolute certainty. Now, whether you see that in the betting, we won't know. We will know because once game 2's finished, we'll see how many people have the perfect bracket. But yeah, look, not sure what I'd do there. But yeah, Hammer of Vulcan, huge differential in median X. Well, now you look at it, might be the bet to go. They haven't been in brilliant form, Hammer of Vulcan, to be honest. I mean, their wins have come. If you break down their wins, they've lost. I mean, they lost to Razor Returns in their first matchup, 3-1. Their wins have come against Bonanza Billions, Retro Tapes. So 3 of their 5 wins have come against horrible slots in terms of forming. And then you have Sweet Rush Megaways that swept, and it took 5 games for Silverback Mountain. Whereas Razor Returns in the last 3 weeks has a 3-1 win over Rich Raptors. It went to 5 against Grand Heist, and it beat Sweet Rush. So on recent form, you would have to say Razor Returns actually looks really good. But yeah, that's going to be a very, very tricky matchup for people to decide against. Hammer of Vulcan.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even notice that week 1 that was a 1-3. And Hammer of Vulcan has underperformed their median all year. Even their losses are not too great. They got Razor Returns, Sweet Rush Megaways. They've lost to Penny Pelican. They got swept by Dr. Rock. It's not impressive. For me, I actually had to go back and I looked to make sure that I was calculating the median correctly on them, and just can't figure out why they're not performing. So to me, they've just got to be due for some positive regression in the second half. But we'll see. I mean, we could be wrong here. Third up, fan favorite Dr. Rock and early favorite Rich Raptors. Dr. Rock 4-6, -5 net rating, 0.54 median, surprisingly high, in good form. They've won 4 of their last 6. Rich Raptors 6-4, +5 net rating, 0.57 median, and kind of poor form. They're only 2-2 in their last 4, and they've actually lost 4 of their last 7 after starting off 3-0. So this one is really a tale of 2 ships kind of heading in different directions, as we've had Dr. Rock coming on strong despite thinking it was going to be more of a high volatility slot, and Rich Raptors falling off despite thinking it was going to be up there with the Crystals Digger and the Hoarders of the world.
Yeah, it's look, I mean, if you said who you're going, Dr. Rock, Rich Raptors, I would just pretty much go, okay, well, I love Dr. Rock. Everyone knows it's my favorite slot maybe of all time. But you'd have to just take a slot like Rich Raptors because you know it's going to give you whatever it gives you pretty much most games. You know when Dr. Rock rips it pretty hard. And I will still probably be likely picking Rich Raptors. But stat line wise, they have, if you take out the net rating, their stats are virtually identical. Across the board. So that's going to be, again, Dr. Rock's a fan favorite. It's been in great form. Even the Grand Heist lost last week, although it did get swept pretty, not swept. It won the first game, then lost 3 in a row, and didn't put up too much of a fight. Previous to that, it had been finding pretty well. And it had been lobbing in some of those 30, 40, 50% back games, which can be enough to steal rounds, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to steal rounds against Rich Raptors, though. That's the difference. But we'll see how that unfolds. Definitely going to be another match. I'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be fun to see. I mean, can the Dr. Rock blow up? They also, one takes about 5 seconds. It's like 5 hours, so that'll be
very awkward to see. Very awkward for commentating.
Absolutely. Game number 4: Super Mega Monsters and Wild Coyote Megaways. Super Mega Monsters, by the book, looks like a pretty heavy favorite here. They have a 0.24 median X advantage. They have a net rating advantage of 7. They're only 4-6. Both of their records are the same on the year, which is just actually shocking now that I'm looking at it. So yeah, that's you would think Super Mega Monsters would pull this one off, but it looks like they've both kind of been underwhelming and underperforming. So I guess I would go Super Mega Monsters just based on the numbers, but Wild Coyote let down our 2 15-0 contestants last week, so that was fun to watch.
Yeah, crazy last week, crazy. By the way, I think you mentioned it was 1,900 in the jackpot. I believe it's actually 2,000 for the record. So I think it's $2,000 this week. But yeah, this matchup, I would definitely be going Super Mega Monsters. I think I said earlier in the season when Wild Coyote kept winning, I think after week 5, they were 3-2, and the only 2 matches they lost, they went to 5 games. And I was like, well, how does Wild Coyote keep doing this? Either winning or going to 5. They've now regressed heavily. So since that moment, they're 1-4. They've been swept 3 times in a row. They've lost to Cat Clans 3-1, and their only win was a 5-game duel with Bonanza Billion. So their recent form's been terrible. And you might look at the stat, might look at recent form and go, wait a minute. Sorry, my throat's very my bad. You might look
Mexico
at
City, dry
Mega
air. I
Monsters
know.
and go,
Oh, it's tough.
yeah. They're 1-6 Super Mega Monsters, but they've at least performed. So they lost in 5 to Sloth Tumble, 5 to Gates of Olympus, 5 to Sweet Bonanza, etc. Dispatched of Bonanza Billions a lot easier than Wild Coyote did. So, yeah, I'll definitely be going Super Mega Monsters. I could see this comeback from Wild Coyote. They're just too up and down. Yeah, I'd expect Super Mega Monsters to get the job done relatively easy.
Absolutely. Who knows? The Coyote might show up. We'll see.
Yeah.
The next one is what seems like a pretty easy decision. Sheep Gone Wild versus Penny Pelican, matchup number 5. Sheep Gone Wild 6-4, -1 net rating. They have median X of 0.56. Penny Pelican is 3-7 and -7 net rating. They've been improving of late. They have a 0.38 median though, so the difference is 0.18. Penny Pelican showed up against Hammer of Vulcan, Big Bamboo, and Choco Reels, but other than that, has been pretty consistent or consistently awful actually. So I would go Sheep Gone Wild here, but I know a lot of people are Pelican fans and Pelican till they die. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, the Pelican has been improving. Sheep Gone Wild has well pretty much all the better stats across the board. Wins a lot as a favorite, etc. I think it's a little deceiving of recent Penny Pelican because their record could be so much better. So you mentioned their wins have not been against juggernauts, although one could argue the Hammer of Volk is pretty nice considering it's a top 5 median slot. But if you look at the 4 losses it's had, it's been up against juggernauts. It's had 2 hip hop pop battles, a Crystal Digger battle, two Crystal Digger battles, and 2 hip hop pop ones. They're all expected to go super deep into the playoffs. Now they got swept by Cool Digger 3-0, but the other 3 games all went to 5. So they all went to 5. So yeah, look, I think Sheep Gone Wild is going to be the popular pick. But if you're trying to get us tip back, like as an outsider, like against the grain, which someone like me has to, I'm trailing pretty heavy on the side of things. That might be one you can sort of risk a tip on and hope you get an upset.
Yeah, and that 0.1 to 0.19, that's the upset zone. It's the lowest where the favorites perform the least well. So ripe for an upset right there. System called it.
Yeah.
Game number 6. This is a tough one. Grand Heist, featured by Silverback Multiplier Mountain. Grand Heist has been dominant of late. They're 8-2, a +9 net rating, a 0.82 median X, second in the league. Silverback is down to 5-5, +6 net rating, a 0.52 median X, which is respectable. They're on a 3-game losing though. They lost to Sweet Rush, Hammer of Vulcan, and Rich Raptors in their lost 3, and have kind of come back to the pack. Whereas Grand Heist hasn't lost since week 6 to Boom Boom Gold. Recent history says Grand Heist is the pick here, but this one's really a coin flip. A 0.3x median difference for Grand Heist is significant, but I'd have to go with Grand Heist over Silverback, but you never know. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm always going to lean towards Grand Heist. They got blown out week 1, and everyone says they were dog shit. And since then, they've just been a wrecking ball. Outside of that one hiccup against Boom Boom Gold, where they got absolutely destroyed. They have been very, very impressive. And Silverback Mountain's been kind of a bit of a lottery, to be honest. Up and down, lost their last 3, but 2 of those 3 went to 5. Yeah, look, Grand Heist looks a favorite on paper, on feeling stats. I think it's more exciting, obviously, than Silverback Mountain. So I think Grand Heist will be popular.
Fair enough. Next up, kind of Silverback Mountain's brother, Kodiak Kingdom, up against what has been the laughingstock of the ISL, Cabin Crashers. The record speaks for itself. 0-10, a -20 net rating, 0.18 median X. Kodiak Kingdom has been performing well, 7-3, a +7 net rating, a 0.53 median. Can Cabin Crashers pull off? I don't think Kodiak Kingdom is the slot that they can do it against. I think that they're too consistent. I think Cabin Crashers is going to need something as volatile as they are. So I really don't think this one is even much of a sort of upset potential, but maybe you see it differently.
No, look, I don't. Every time I play Cabin Crashers, I just can't believe how bad some of the bonuses are. Yeah, so yeah, there's not much to see about Cabin Crash. It's going to be interesting to see if they can win a game all season. I haven't got the schedule ahead of me here, but they're going to need a game again, like another matchup against Choco Reels or something like, or a retro tapes matchup could be interesting. If they do fight against those this season. But yeah, Kodiak pretty solid. You'd think Cabin Crashers just one day would get lucky somewhere, but yeah, they've been so bad. I think they've got the most 0x as well this season. Yeah, they're they're just
Yeah.
awful. They're just awful this season. It's been terrible. It's been the worst.
So I
Even
see.
the slots that are terrible, like Choco Reels and Retro Tapes on record, have both given out humongous wins in dollar values because of their volatility. Cabin Crashers has given us nothing for the entire season. So I would be very shocked if Cabin Crashers.
I only see one potential win. They have Kodiak Kingdom this week, Sloth Tumble next week. They get Royal Potato week 13. They could beat the potato, but then they go Bloodsuckers, Wild Coyote, Sweet Bonanza, Rise of Atlanta. So I think they need to win week 13. That's or
Yep, fair
else.
enough. That sounds about right to me. So
On to the next one, which is going to be Retro Tapes versus Sweet Rush Megaways. So Retro Tapes, obviously a fan favorite outside of the ISL. They have not really done their best representation of themselves in the ISL. They have a 1-9 record, a -17 net rating, a 0.19 median, barely better than Cabin Crashers. Sweet Rush has sort of been overperforming. They have a 5-5 record, a 0.45 median, which is really below average. Their net rating is 0, and they've kind of shown that they've really fallen off. They started off 5-1, but since they've been 1-4, kind of have shown their form. I think they beat Retro Tapes here this week, but Retro Tapes always has that blow potential, and you could get a couple 8 scatters and a couple 8 spins for Sweet Rush and see an upset here. What do you think?
yeah, look, I mean, stats wise, people are going to lean towards nearly any game over Retro Tapes, but I think this is a sneaky win chance for Retro Tapes too. They nearly put off a huge upset against Grand Heist. Although the median X is about a 0.26 difference, and it's got the second worst median X in the league. Only had a Cabin Crashers and barely. We are due to go on a run. I know people don't like hearing the due thing, but we are due to have a bit of an uptick on retro, which we have outside of ISL. I don't think Sweet Rush has been performing great of late, like you said, after a good start to the season. And it is prone to, on the 3 scatters, if there's no wilds, it is prone to deliver some 0.2, 0.25s. And when it does drop that, Retro doesn't exactly have to blow up to steal those games. You're just going to get one tape connecting to maybe a couple of 5 coins or 1 silver coin, and you can maybe steal a game or 2 and then maybe add in a blow up somewhere. So interesting matchup. Sweet Rush deserves to be a very, very firm favorite there. Anyone against Retro Tapes should be. But that could be another one to watch out for an upset.
Absolutely. The next one should be a really interesting battle in terms of how everything shapes up. Space Wars versus Mental. So Space Wars 8-2, a plus 11 net rating. They have a 0.56 median X, right? So just out of nowhere, they lost to Mental in a 5-game week 1 matchup, and they lost to Rise of Atlantis week 6. Otherwise, they haven't lost. They've won 2 4-game winning streaks. They're trying to make it 5. They've beaten some decent slots. I see a Silverback Multiplier Mountain. I see a Kodiak Kingdom. I see a Sloth Tumble. They've beaten some bad slots. I see Cabin Crashers, Royal Potato, and King Kobe. Mental, same thing. This 0.62 median is tough. They're 8-2. They have a +5 net rating. And the crazy thing is these two are tied for first in the ASC South at 8-2. So this matchup will really go a long way toward deciding which one is going to take the division crown.
Yeah, I mean,
I like this one.
You think both teams would make the playoffs regardless. So one will make the playoffs as a divisional winner, and then the second team would obviously make it as a wild card, given their records and the style of slots they are. This is very interesting. I'm probably leaning towards Mental here personally, because although they have the same median slot, Mental is going to be giving you that unwritten 1/4 of money back every time on the super. That could be the big difference there in maybe one rip by Space Wars. 2 will hand Mental a free win basically in a round, whereas a Space Wars rip, for instance, if we look at Cabin Crashers, I think in game 5, I'll have to go back and look later, but I think there was a couple of rounds that Cabin Crashers had opportunities to beat Space Wars in like an individual game, and they just performed nothing. Whereas if that was up against Mental would have stolen those rounds and probably won the matchup. So I think Mental's got more upside on a 1-to-1 matchup, even though their stat lines are virtually identical. Space Wars has been so surprising, given the fact that its highest win for the year is just double the buy, very similar to Crystal Digger. But Crystal Digger gives you half your money back nearly every time. That's the big difference between Space Wars 2 and Crystal Digger. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Mental. I'm very likely to pick Mental there. Should be an interesting matchup to see which team finally has a loss in that division.
I think people looking to make up ground, Space Wars might be a good pick, because I think a lot of people, Mental is just more fun to watch. It's got that 10.2. A lot more fun. Yeah, exactly. So when the numbers are this close, a lot of people are going to take Mental as a tiebreaker. So if you're looking to make up a little bit of ground, that Space Wars might be the savvy pick there. Always the contrarian kind of way to think about things. Next up, Sweet Bonanza and Hoarders, game number 10. This is another heavyweight matchup. Hoarders is tied for first with Bloodsuckers. Sweet Bonanza is 1 game behind. Sweet Bonanza 6-4, net rating of +6, a median X of a very healthy 0.75. Hoarders is 7-3, a median X of 0.93, which is the best in the league. We had talked about this one really puts 2 heavyweight slots. Again, a pick 'em. I would probably tend to go with the 0.18X, but I could easily see Sweet Bonanza winning this one. They could even sweep it. Sweet Bonanza is known to put together big runs of 1.4, 1.5Xs, and that would be enough to do the Hoarders out a lot of times.
Yeah, look, I think they could be. I think they could be an upset here. Hoarders, I think it regresses a bit. Sweet Bonanza was disappointing last week, but previously to that week, its form was super. If you take out last week's loss, the sweep, surprisingly, what are they, 6-3, and their 3 losses came against Grand Heist, who's no slouch, obviously, and the other 2 were in 5-game duels. So their form's been really good. And obviously a massive matchup with those 3 teams at the top of the ASC North. And with Sweet Bonanza beating Hoarders, remember, 3-0. They swept Hoarders when they matched up in week 1. I do think I'm probably leaning towards Sweet Bonanza in this matchup, and I know that they're probably not going to be favorite, but I think they can steal this from Hoarders.
Yeah, I could easily see it happening. This could be the start of Hoarders' sort of downward decline and regression back to the mean easily.
Yeah, maybe.
Next up, after that heavyweight matchup, is a little bit of a dud. Game number 11 is Bonanza Billion versus Gates of Olympus. Bonanza Billion 1-9, -15 net rating, 0.34 median. Their only win is Dragonfall in a shocking upset week 6. Gates of Olympus, on the other hand, fighting for a playoff spot, 7-3, +8 net rating, 0.53 median. They're in first place. They're 3 games ahead of Coyote and the Monsters in a pretty weak division, so they're kind of battling for the rest of the division playoff race. This one's pretty easy. I think Gates wins. The games are very similar, but for whatever reason, Gates outperforms on a very consistent basis. Bonanza just hasn't had that blow up yet, other than week 6 win. What do you think?
Yeah, look, it's not a lot to talk about in this matchup. Bonanza Billion, I've been waiting for a few breakout games, and although they normally steal a game here and there and a couple went to 5, they've got 3 5-game losses, which you could say maybe if they won a couple of those, they'd have a slightly better record. Gates of Olympus has been very consistent. Even on its losses, it can do enough to beat some of the Bonanza Billion turn-ups. So I think pretty self-explanatory. Most people will be going Gates of Olympus there.
Fair enough. Game 12, Royal Potato versus Dragonfall. Royal Potato can blow up. They've got 2 of the biggest upset wins in the ISL, but if they don't blow up, you're in trouble. They have that 0.18 median, tied with Cabin Crashers for the worst. They're 3-7, a -9 net rating. Dragonfall, on the other hand, a 0.27 median, not as good as their 5-5 record and 0 net rating would indicate. They've kind of stumbled after a 3-0 start. They've only been, 5-2 since then. So while I think Dragonfall is a heavy favorite here, I think Royal Potato easily could show up with a couple big games and then even squeak by with a single upgrade win over Dragonfall if those eyeball eggs, whatever they are, don't get close enough.
Eyeballs. I think they're eyeballs. I just call them jars or eggs or bombs or anything. Call them all the same shit.
Right.
Look, it's a tricky matchup on stats. Stats would say that the median X is less than 0.1, so it's in the lowest category of differentials. And I did say Dragonfall. I was shocked how it started, same as Wild Coyote. It should fall back to the mean here, and probably, and it has. It most certainly has. Its only wins have come in 5 against Cacklands, and it beat Cabin Crashers, which everyone does, and it's actually gave Bonanza Billions its only win of the season. So it has fallen right off, but I think I'll be going Dragonfall purely just because on what's the word I'm thinking of? I can't think of the word I want, but just
Principle,
on
just on the principle of the matter.
principle maybe. To win 5 games, it's very hard for Royal Potato, given how often it rips on that relaxed gaming setup where it's either big win or nothing. You are right; it could steal some upgrade on some cheap upgrades because Dragonfall does rip in a similar vein to Royal Potato. So I'm not going to crucify Potato pickers this week as I normally do most weeks, but I am leaning towards Dragonfall there.
And to that, Royal Potato did win on a 3-2 in week 1 when these slots
Well, there you
faced
go.
each other. So
yeah,
shows you that it can
there
get
you
it
go.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next up is just another massive matchup. This week really excited me. There's some huge slots where we get to kind of see what they're made of. Game 13 is Crystal's Digger and Hip Hop Pop. We've been looking forward to this one since week 1 when Hip Hop Pop beat Crystal's Digger 3-1. It's their only loss. They're 9-1, a massive 22 net rating. The median X is 0.73. Hip Hop Pop is 7-3. They're 2 games behind Crystal's Digger in the ISC West. So they need this to get that tiebreaker and go 2-0, but also to help bring Crystal Digger back to the pack a little bit. They have a very respectable 0.7 median. So this one is really a coin flip. I'm excited. I still haven't figured out. I'm digging into some extra numbers to try and see who I'm going to look at here. What do you think?
Yeah, look, it's I just looking at the Crystal Digger. I can't believe it's stat line for a slot that's never 2x ever. And it hasn't just been winning; it's been demolishing people. The only matchup where it's been pushed to 5 was that Penny Pelican near upset of the year. You take that out, this is what it's done: 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-1, 3-0. That seems impossible. So what has it gone? It's gone 25-3 since week 1. That's just insanity. Hip Hop Pop, it's come back a little bit after the fast start. So it has come back to the pack a little bit. And strength of schedule for Hip Hop Pop, not exactly. I mean, the first 2 weeks were great wins. But if you look after that, if you go through the names here, you'd be like, oh, okay, I see. It's not the Bonanza Billions, Penny Pelican, Sheep Gone Wild, Retro Tape, Sheep Gone Wild, Boom Boom Gold's a good one, King Kobe, Penny Pelican. So it hasn't really been going against super juggernauts. So you would have to think that most, well, I won't call them professionals, but people who are really trying to lock in on this would lean towards Crystal Digger and just force Hip Hop Pop every game to perform. And you would, it's going to be a very good matchup.
My counterpoint would be that
going Digger.
I think Crystal Digger has, because they're in the same division, they have very similar schedules. Listen to these wins. Gates of Olympus, that's good. Sheep Gone Wild, that's pretty good. Penny Pelican, Sweet Rush, Penny Pelican, Choco Reels, Big Bamboo, Sheep Gone Wild, that's good. So I think a game like Hip Hop Pop that has a high median, but also has that like 23x blow up might be the kryptonite for a game like Crystal Digger. And it hasn't seen a lot of those games where the games that could blow up that it's played so far, like Choco Reels, aren't going to give you a decent number when they don't, because obviously that 0.44, that's the lowest they've ever done. So I don't know. I might be leaning toward Hip Hop Pop just as again, the contrarian pick, because I think Crystal Digger is a pretty heavy favorite, but that's going to be the case in every matchup moving forward. And the reason we don't play them on paper is because that's very fun. We'll see how it plays out, I guess.
Fair enough.
All right, number 14, a lot less exciting. King Kobe versus Big Bamboo, but still pretty important. King Kobe is 3-7. They have a -7 net rating, a 0.52 median. They've won their last 2 though. They beat Hip Hop Hop 3-0 and they beat Choco Reels 3-1. So making a little bit of a push. Big Bamboo is 5-5 and -3 net rating, only a 0.53x median. So that's a 0.01x. It's the closest median we have this week. This one is a toss-up despite probably most people at first glance thinking Big Bamboo is a heavy favorite. I think King Kobe has kind of impressed the last couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to have to do this on play money, if Eddie has kind of clarified what that's going to look like, but what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I haven't checked. That's good reminder there. I got to look into why, but I think that's maybe a booming gaming slot. I'll have to see, but yeah, there's a couple of providers at the moment. Providers can actually do whatever they want in terms of if they want to just remove bonus buys or drop their max bet size, stake and want certain things, but they're pretty much free to do whatever they want because they host the game, so they're sort of in control of the game features. But we'll have a look at that on the day. But yeah, look, like you said, my first thought, I look at the 2 games, I go, oh yeah, Big Bamboo. I'll definitely go Big Bamboo. But the median X are identical. Both games fun stat. So all 3 of King Kobe's wins, all 5 of Big Bamboo wins have been favorite on the Median X. So both teams undefeated as favorite, but there's a 0.01 difference in favor of Big Bamboo. So technically, Big Bamboo's the favorite. I'll lean to Big Bamboo over King Kobe, but if you're trying to get a point back, maybe you risk it on King Kobe there.
Fair enough. And I think that's probably what most people are going to be looking at is either you're ahead and you're looking to hold on to points, or you need to make up. And that's where these are those games that you can do that. Next one isn't one I would suggest sort of deviating from. Cat Clans 2 versus Sloth Tumble. It's not a massive difference. Cat Clans is a 5-5, an even net rating, a 0.38 median. Sloth Tumble 7-3, a +5 net rating, a 0.55 median X. Just on face though, it feels like Sloth Tumble is more consistent. They've only won one of their last 3 matchups though. Maybe they're on a little bit of a downturn. Were really hot. They won 5 in a row from weeks 3 to 7. So maybe even looking at this myself, I might second guess myself here. Sloth Tumble, again, on face value, looks like the favorite here, but Cat Clans is tied for second. They're 2 games behind Sloth Tumble. You think that they got the upset potential in them this week?
I'll be going Sloth Tumble. I'm a big fan of Sloth Tumble. And I mean, if you look at the Cat Clan 2 wins very quickly, you've got Royal Potato, Cabin Crashers, Dragonfall, Wild Coyote, and Razor Returns, and those are all slots with losing records, and some of them very big losing records. When they've come up against teams with winning records, that is Sloth Tumble, Crystal Digger, and Mental, they've lost all 3 of those positive games there. Sloth Tumble, I mean, you can say the same sort of thing for Sloth Tumble, to be honest. Although they do have a Hammer of Vulcan win and a Super Mega Monsters win, which I think is a little bit better than the wins that Cat Clans have got. And it took them 5 games to beat Cat Clans in week 1. But yeah, I think just across the board, better net rating, better win record, better median X. They've never lost as a favorite either, Sloth Tumble. So that's another stat to know. I think they tick a lot of boxes for this matchup.
Absolutely. I think may have gotten burned on in the last couple of weeks. So that's kind of stinging me a little bit as I'm in the running for the overall prize. So that might be where and I can't let that recency bias cloud me. I got to look at the overall numbers. We'll see.
No, sure.
And last up, game number 16. Now, one of the features next year we need to get is flex scheduling, so we can make sure we put the game we want in game number 16 each week.
Yeah, we'll look at that for sure.
Yep.
You want to make
we have some duds. I actually looked, the very last game of the entire ISL season is either Retro Tapes versus Penny Pelican or Cabin Crashers versus Penny Pelican. It's one of the 2. I was looking at the season long schedules today, so I thought about that.
Yeah.
I figured I'd put it on air and hold you to it. But yeah, Bloodsuckers, Rise of Atlantis. Bloodsuckers is actually in first. They're tied with Hoarders. So this is a big matchup with Hoarders having a big matchup themselves, and Bloodsuckers being a pretty heavy favorite against Rise of Atlantis, who's in fourth, 4 games back. So Bloodsuckers 7-3, +8 net rating, 0.55 median. Rise of Atlantis 3-7 and -9 net rating, but their median is 0.49. So they've really underperformed. They've beat Choco Reels, Space Wars, and Super Mega Monsters, and have faced an incredibly tough schedule. Listen to their losses. Bloodsuckers, Rich Raptors, Hoarders, Sweep and Anza, Gates, Hoarder. That's just gauntlet. Their ASC North has just made it really tough. What do you think? Bloodsucker is going to get the job done, or Rise of Atlantis maybe make a little bit of a late run?
Yeah, look, stat-wise, you'd say Bloodsuckers has all the ticks, even though you just recognize the median X is actually super close. Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Rise of Atlantis. I've been disappointed in some of its performances, but again, it's been facing hard slots, whereas Bloodsuckers has been facing some hard ones too, but not to depth of Rise of Atlantis. Yeah, look, you'll find most people do Bloodsuckers just on its consistency and its wins of late, but I may go Rise of Atlantis in 5. I may go Rise of Atlantis in 5 there and try and peg back another tip from someone, because it's a sneaky chance there. Well, the net rating is a 17 game differential, which is huge, but yeah, the median X very close, big chance of an upset.
Exactly. Yep. And those kind of, we talked about upset picks. If you can find a median X that's close and something that doesn't look close at first glance, or on net rating or record, that's maybe a good chance to grab a couple points on everyone else, both in the weekly and in the overall, and trying to go 16-0, which obviously wrapping things up here. Thank you, Systems, for joining me. I think this went really well. I think Obviously, as you're watching and listening to this, leave comments. As you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube video, let us know what we can do better. We're looking to make this as nerdy and in-depth as we can make it, while not giving away every single secret that we have. Make sure you get into ISL.bet today. Lock in those picks. Now you're not going to have to wonder what Systems is thinking and where he's getting all that information from. You have the same information at your fingertips. You can choose to fade all of it, fade half of it, or go completely chalk, completely up to you. But whatever you do, get those picks in, make sure they're locked. Don't forget your fantasy teams. We didn't talk a lot about that, but it's definitely something that we'll address in future podcasts and is important. Make sure you pick your leader for your fantasy team. And then every Wednesday, tune into Systems Live, whatever time it is for you. It's the same time each and every week. See how these slots play out. Watch me win the 16-0 prize and coast to glory in the overall pick 'em.
Crazy to go off last week.
Oh, it was
Crazy
so fun. You called it 2 slots left. You called your shot. You wanted Gates to be the one to do the kill shot, and it was. So that was fun. Like you said, the drama every single week is incredible. What an incredible thing this is. It is the best thing that's come to the slot channel since Systems himself. So appreciate you. Appreciate you for doing this. And get off that Concorde.
We'll catch you,
hop in your limo. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
We'll catch you next week, and looking to maybe peel off a guest or two every week just to share some more thoughts on a week-to-week basis, get some of the viewers in and see how their minds work.
Absolutely. I want some of those people, few people that are beating me in the head-to-head to come in and tell me what they're doing so I can fade them and get in their head and corrupt them. So that's always good.
Go against the grain.
Absolutely. Well, thank you a lot. Have a good one.
All right.
Everyone get in those
Thanks very
picks
much,
today.
man. Appreciate it.
Like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.